I'm going to turn now to Senator Klobuchar, our ace eagle on transparency.
And especially that description, Senator Hickenlooper. As you are all aware, we held a major hearing in the Judiciary Committee, and I'm also pleased that the Commerce Committee is obviously has jurisdiction as well and involved in this. We have seen, it has been pointed out, increased costs on everything from cell phone bills to airplane and concert tickets, and one area of this high excessive fees is ticketing. We had the hearing earlier this year with the president of Live Nation, Ticketmaster, and other witnesses. And as you are aware, the facts are quite startling. It's being reviewed by the Justice Department, including 90% monopoly on ticketing for major NFL, NHL events, 80% for major arena events, and 70% monopoly when it comes to all ticketing. In addition to that, Ticketmaster now owns a number of venues and also locks in the number of other venues that they don't own with their services for in excess of 7 years, which is the subject of a bill that Senator Blumenthal and I have introduced. Because of this locking in makes for even less competition. And then finally, Live Nation promotes the act. So it's like a three-cornered monopoly. So Justice Department is investigating, and then we go from there when it comes to other consumer bills that are being considered. In 2018, the GAO found that on average, concert ticket fees cost 27% of the ticket's face value, but there have also been reports recently of fees totaling 75% of the face value of tickets. Ms. Moritz, in your testimony, you discuss how drip pricing is commonly used in the ticketing industry for live events and concert. Could you talk about that and how that misrepresents the true cost of buying a ticket?
Yes, thank you for the question. So when fees are presented at the end of the shopping process, it makes the initial price look cheaper. So the customer starts, they see the price for a particular seat they would like for the event, the play, the baseball game, and it appears cheaper than it really is. As they click through the pages, they learn that there's a series of fees that they have to pay. And at the end, the price is much more expensive, as you mentioned. 20%, 50%, maybe 75%. They see the total, and in theory, they could back out at that point. But it becomes very difficult for consumers to do so. The tendency is to stick with the price, even though it's more expensive than they thought it was initially. And there's a variety of reasons why that happens. Often they overestimate how much time it would take to start over. They underestimate how much money they could save by starting over. They have to notice the fees in the first place. They may not even notice the fees. And also, we don't like to feel bad as consumers, so we might sort of have a self-motivated component where we want to feel like we made a good decision. So for all these reasons, consumers tend not to start over again. Also, the ticketing, the firms, they also put pressure on the consumer to complete the deal. So there might be a countdown clock. And if we're under time pressure, we feel like we need to make the decision quickly.
Right. Good
there
point.
might be messages of scarcity, that there's 2 tickets left at that price. And we feel like if I restart, I might lose these good seats.
Thank you. Very good. Ms. Greenberg, could you talk about how increased transparency of showing fans the full ticket price up front could help create a more functional market? I know Mr. Zwicky agreed that it is important to show the fees up front. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, it is important. And we saw this coming when the merger of Live Nation and Ticketmaster happened in the Justice Department. This is going to create an impossible monopolistic situation, and it is exactly what's happened for consumers. All-in pricing is so important because when you look for a ticket online, you can't tell until you get to the very end of the transaction how much that ticket's going to cost you. And different secondary markets, primary markets have different charges. You can't compare and contrast. And as Professor Morowitz said, most consumers are going to go, well, I spent 20 minutes getting this ticket. I'm just going to finish up what's $5, what's $10. So all-in pricing is critical so that you can compare and contrast. I also want to mention that this is not just about middle class, the junk fee, not just about middle-class consumers. Poor people of very modest means are facing punishing fees in so many areas. Renters, for example, have 6, 7 different fees that are imposed on they have to pay a fee to even get a rental application in. They can least afford it, and I know Senator Blackburn was saying our consumers aren't concerned about this. They're concerned about basic goods and services. Well, that affects people of low income harder than any of the rest of us. So I think it's important that we recognize that we're talking about middle-class consumers, consumers of more modest means. These fees are hitting all of us across the board, and they are out of control right now.
Very good. Thank you. And I will ask on the record some of the App Store issues of you, Ms. Morwitz, because I'm out of time. Another piece of legislation that Senator Blackburn and Blumenthal and I have. And there's a lot of work to be done, and I'm very glad this is a priority of this committee, and I thank Senator Hickenlooper for his leadership. Thank you.